How to write a routine. You have asked for it. I've avoided it. Now here we finally are. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And today, I'm talking about how I write a routine. Or at least how I try to. Before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow DNA, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultra Poi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. The topic for March is inside Drex's brain, and you're about to get a whole heaping plate full of that. So I've straight up been avoiding doing this topic for nearly a year now. There have been multiple times when my Patreon supporters have voted for me to cover this topic, and I know it's going to be one that a lot of people are going to watch, but it's also a difficult one for me to cover. Why? Well, because I feel like I've never really written a routine. In my mind, a routine is a choreographed performance written specifically to be done repeatedly for an audience, usually in a formal setting. And I don't really do that. The thing that I do with quite a bit of frequency is I record one-off flow sessions every month that I post to my channel. Oh, and I guess I write choreography regularly that I post tutorials on every Friday. Oh, and I guess I choreograph group and duet pieces fairly frequently too. Okay, I write routines. They don't look like many of the routines that my circus friends create, but I guess since I don't really consider myself a circus artist, that's hardly surprising. So, y'all showed up not to find out how a routine is created, but specifically what my process is for creating a routine. So I'll give the people what they want. Here goes. The first step is always the idea. What is the purpose of this routine? This isn't actually as intimidating as it might sound at first. The purpose of the routine might simply be to do my monthly sponsored flow video, or it might be to create a new combo to teach people on Instagram. Both of these are relatively modest ideas for a routine's purpose. But sometimes I do want to tackle something a bit more ambitious, and that's when one of several other techniques might kick in. For my duet last year with my friend Leslie, we started getting together to work on choreography, specifically because I was having a hard time after a traumatic breakup, and producing a creative work was an emotional outlet for both of us. Here, the purpose was to process our feelings through art. There have been other times when I've had a story in mind that I want to tell. Those tend to be the most difficult routines for me to write and almost always require the input of other people to complete. And sometimes I use a method for creating a routine that I learned from my modern dance teacher that we'll get into a little more in the next section. But suffice it to say, it starts with a single word or concept. Something I want to explore through movement, and it can be anything from a word that is popular in the media to a feeling or concept that I have complicated feelings about and want to explore. Another way to do this is if you have a specific piece of music that you want to perform to and write your routine around how that music makes you feel. You can also act out the narrative that you see embedded in it. You know, I know a lot of people that can't start writing until they have music in mind. I'm not one of them, but it's absolutely a thing. It should also be said that sometimes I don't actually know what a piece is about until I'm nearly finished with it and I'm seeing how all the pieces fall together. That certainly happened with House of Leaves. We didn't know that our characters were leaves until we'd choreographed most of the piece. So once I have an idea or purpose, the next step is to actually start to choreograph the thing. What does that even look like? Again, it depends upon the project, but here are some examples of techniques I've used in the past. Remember the technique I mentioned that I learned from my modern dance teacher? Here's a more detailed explanation for how it works. I start with a word or concept that I want to explore, and I write a short movement phrase based upon it. Sometimes it's acting out elements associated with that word or concept, or sometimes it's about expressing how it makes me feel. Frequently, I do this process with collaborators, and we'll start to notice pieces we have in common, or points where the movement phrases we've written overlap. Then we'll stitch together parts of our individual phrases to create something that's a composite of both of our choreography. Depending on how many people you work with, this can mean that you can crowdsource choreography really quickly. I've written 5-minute pieces in a couple hours before using this technique, but it also requires a good eye for stage composition and dynamics. You have to make sure that you're keeping your audience engaged. For some projects, I have a really specific idea of what I want to accomplish and what the choreography should look like. House of Leaves came out of a lot of my poi dance fusion work from the past couple years, and it was clear right from the start that it would focus on dance over tech. Leslie and I would come in with our ideas week after week and see how they'd fit with the music that we'd chosen. Sometimes we'd find that something couldn't be done at tempo or had to be altered to fit a specific measure, and that was totally fine. The process of discovery was a huge part of this. And it also led to some interesting moments and breakthroughs. For example, our final few bars of choreography quote from the entirety of the piece before. It was almost like having a flashback of the relationship between these two characters before they say their goodbyes. And it was really easy to pull together because, well, we already knew all the pieces. It should also be said here that blocking can be your friend. This is the practice of writing down the sections of your music based upon dynamic shifts, different instrumentation, or lyrical cues. This gives you a rough map of the song and lets you know how many sections you have to fill up and what feeling they should have. I did an entire video on blocking out songs that I'll link to down in the description. Suffice it to say, this is usually a technique that I employ when I'm choreographing a piece or routine to specific counts, but I don't always necessarily want to be that rigid when I write. When it comes to my combos for my tutorial challenges, sometimes I'll pull pieces out of my flow videos, and sometimes I'll try to choreograph around a specific challenge for myself. If I want to do a multi-prop combo, I'll frequently imagine another tool and restrict my movement vocabulary to stuff that I know can be done with it. Or I'll have a specific trick in mind, and I'll write a whole combo around tricks that are easy to transition back and forth with to that specific trick. As much as possible, I want to avoid repeating myself here. I want to create something that's going to be accessible for the people in my audience, interesting enough that I'm interested in performing it myself, and that teaches a valuable skill when it comes to transitions or gets people moving their feet with tricks that they already know. When I have a specific song in mind that I want to choreograph to, I will almost always seek to write my choreo around major landmarks in the song. Is there a big drop? A cool lyric? I want to make sure that I hit them. I'm also not averse to recycling choreography. One combo that I wrote near the end of last year, I had a flash of inspiration on and saw how to expand it. So I brought it into my next flow video too. You can totally recontextualize phrases of choreography you've already written for a different feel and performance. That is absolutely a thing. And if you're looking for a long and detailed explanation for what I look for in my choreography and what stays and what goes, I actually don't know if I can give that to you. Frequently, I'm unaware that there are conventions to my style until they're pointed out to me by other people. There's a lot in my head that even I still don't have full visibility on. What can I tell you? I like things that are mathematically pleasing, that have a sense of symmetry or resolution to them, and I like things that can be accented in really cool and unexpected ways with the body. So how do I write the choreography for my monthly flow videos? Well, this is the most frequent technique, and it's basically a collage of ideas. First up, part of my regular practice is to just practice flowing out to music and seeing where it takes me. Some days I come up with some beautiful ideas, and some days it's pretty lackluster. But here's the key. I record video of all of it. Then I go back through my game tape to see what I like. Sometimes I'll see something that felt like a particularly good accent. Sometimes I'll see a particularly inspired bit of flow that I want to hold on to. But as I look through those videos, I'm trying to pick out stuff that I find really visually pleasing. Stuff that involves cool level changes and accents. Stuff that defies my expectations and instantly generates a reaction in me. Stuff that shows off capabilities I didn't even know that I had. And once I've found all these bits that I've decided are keepers, it's time for the next step. And this is the same regardless of choreography technique. It's time to rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Ideally, if I've written choreography, I want it to be so ingrained in my body that I can do it automatically without having to think about it. Was the next thing a windmill or a pirouette? Where do I need to get to on stage to hit my next mark? I cannot afford to be asking myself these questions during a performance. They have to be as natural as breathing, or the whole thing starts to fall apart. When it comes to my monthly flow videos, this usually takes a couple different forms depending upon how hard I want to commit to a thing. No matter what, I take those pieces that appear in my game tape from my flow sessions and work to be able to perform them deliberately and repeatedly. It's important that they feel natural for me to perform rather than a unicorn that I can only pull off once. And frequently in this process, I find I want to edit them. Can I make this longer and more involved? This other combo that I did a few days later would look great with this first combo. Can I put the two of them together? Over the course of a lot of practice, I usually come up with around 3 to 4 combos that I know I want to hit. Sometimes more. And at this point I have a choice. drop those combos in wherever they feel right and see how it goes, or choreograph them to a specific section of my music. Honestly, I've done it both ways. And of course, I should note that all of my flow videos involve a large amount of, well, flow. Even if I have some choreography I've got in mind, I will still stitch those pieces together with stuff that I'm improvising off the top of my head. So now that I've written my choreography and rehearsed my tail off, what comes next? Performing it. So again, there are a wide variety of ways that can happen, but usually I'm performing on video. So here's what that looks like. First up, I need a place to shoot. For most of my combo tutorials, that'll be behind my apartment building or across the street in the park. I'm not looking for anything fancy, just enough room to move. For my flow videos, I usually have locations in and around DC in mind to go shoot in. I rarely think of them in terms of supporting the themes of the song that I'm going to be performing to. Normally, it's what looks cool and what's convenient. Fun fact, I already know where I'm going to shoot my next 2 videos, and I'm working on the next one after that. For House of Leaves, I chose a park not too far away from where I live, where I knew we had access both to a wide open clearing as well as lots of tree cover in the background. It was important to me that there be no visual signs of civilization there, and this particular park was a perfect fit. Sometimes the performance space is at a flow festival, or I've been hired out to go to a particular venue. These tend to be my least favorite cases because I tend not to know much about the stage before I get there, and I rarely get time to familiarize myself with it. And we've also got to talk about lighting. If it's daytime, I try to orient myself with the sun facing me. Overcast days are actually super helpful for this because the light is so diffuse that there's no bad angle. But it's tough to schedule around those. If it's evening, I'll sometimes choose a shooting location with a lot of ambient lighting. When that fails, I'll bring my LED panels with me. I can carry them around in 2 shoulder bags. They're heavy, but not unpleasantly so. And they come in really handy. Most of the routines I've shared are shot with a single camera mounted on a tripod, but there have been exceptions. My recent video to 1000 Bad Times was shot in a single take with a gimbal mounted camera, for example. I like single take stuff because it's easy to edit and shoot. But in cases like House of Leaves, we actually ran the piece several times with different camera setups so the editor would have options to work with for the final version. We shot close-ups first, followed by gimbal-mounted shots at a medium distance, and then further away shots using a slider. I think all told we ran the whole thing something like 8 to 10 times that day, with at least 2 takes per camera setup. And when you've got your routine and you're performing it live in a venue that isn't suited to you, well, you gotta do your best. I've actually been known to create venue-specific pieces for this very reason, though they're incredibly rare and incredibly difficult to choreograph. But in the end, I'm hoping that you can see that there is no one way to write a routine. I have lots of options in my toolbox, and I choose among them depending upon what's the best fit for the time that I have available, amount of work that I want to do, and the central concept behind the work that I'm trying to create. Wow, that was a lot. I really hope that this was helpful or at least gave some of you out there some ideas. If you got anything out of this video, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to help other people find my videos and of course, to help my channel grow. I also just want to put out a huge thank you because this video would not be possible without the kind contributions of these wonderful folks right here. These are my Flow patrons on Patreon, and they, along with the wonderful people listed down in the description, make this video and all the videos on my channel possible. If you'd like to help me out in my mission to bring poi spinning and flow arts to the wider world and help people learn to be creative with their bodies, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and signing up. You can get early access to all of my content, a say in what topics I tackle in the future, plus some great extras and behind-the-scenes content as well. So go check that out. Please and thank you. What's your favorite method for writing a routine? Do you use any of the techniques that I've outlined here? Do you have techniques I haven't mentioned? Let me know down in the comments. And also let me know if you want more of this. Would you like me to take you through step-by-step the creation of a routine so you can see what I keep in and what I leave out and why? Thanks so much for watching and make sure to get out and flow today. I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.